I pieced together the best bits of the United Nations General Assembly, which just took place in New York at the UN headquarters. And I mean, I'm just going to start with the funniest one. This is seriously the funniest thing I've seen at the UN in a while. So the president of Iran was giving his speech, right? President Raisi. He was giving a speech, and this Israeli envoy, so the Israeli ambassador to the UN, thought it would be a funny idea to hold up a poster while Raisi is speaking, and just look what happened.
Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame off the terrorists. What is your idea? Do you know how many times they raised flags against Russia when Ukraine is here?
Oh God, that's so funny. Do you know how many times there is Russia flag when Ukraine's speaking? No, you screwed up. You screwed up. He looked so desperate. Also, he was like this. He's like some child, you know. Look, I did my homework. Look. What an absolute clown. This backfired so spectacularly. This is so funny, you know, because the Israelis think they're like, you know, they're above everybody, the chosen people, right? So can't touch them. No. Just one of the best things I've ever seen, right? So remember, the UN is like, think of it like an embassy. You know, the whatever country it's in, whatever headquarters, whether we're talking about New York, Geneva, Vienna, Nairobi, police cannot go inside. So the UN have their own police, okay? And because it's actually, I mean, because the largest one is in New York, and they founded it in New York, the uniforms look like the NYPD. They look similar to the NYPD's, but make no mistake, it's a completely separate entity. So he's basically being detained by them, and the Israelis then claim that he was never detained. No, I'm pretty sure that you were being detained. Like, dude, they took you out. You got kicked out of the General Assembly. You got kicked out like a spoiled child, and grabbed and escorted out like an idiot. And I love what he's writing on the thing. He's showing a photo of Mahsa Amini, which, you know, in the West, they're so sure that, you know, she was the morality police in Iran, beat her to death. What an absolute load of rubbish. Every single piece of CCTV footage says otherwise. The coroner's report, the medical examiner say otherwise. But of course, nothing is ever good enough. You know, it's always Iran bad, Iran evil. Anything that happens is Iran's fault, etc., etc. And he says Iranian women deserve freedom now. Yes, I agree. Freedom from Israel and U.S. sanctions. They definitely do. But those women don't count. They don't matter, right? So they only care about Mahsa Amini because they can use her as a symbol to attack Iran with, right? They're so pathetic. They're really so pathetic. They're so pathetic. I thought that's the best moment of the UN, honestly. This one made my day. This made my day. What a clown. What an absolute clown of a clown. So, on to the next clip. What do we have here? We have Netanyahu, you know, outlining his plan for a new Middle East. So some fuck from Ukraine, right? And Poland or Russia, wherever he comes from, he has a plan for the Middle East. Wow, how generous of you. Thank you so much for blessing us, Your Grace. And so he basically wants to destroy China's Belt and Road Initiative, China's New Silk Road, by making sure that Israel gets a piece of the pie. And of course, he wants Saudi Arabia and the United States to help him, who are more than happy to, because the United States hates China. The United States sees China as competition, right? They're truly capitalist, the United States, right? Meaning no competition, right? They act like they want competition, but when you have competition, they call it a threat. So they want monopoly. They want to destroy China, whether it's tech, whether their phones, you know, whether we're talking about their phones or their apps or their whatever it is, their industry, they're going to just destroy it. And the New Silk Road is one of their targets. So, you know, he thinks that they're going to completely subvert the Silk Road and undercut them by running an economic corridor through the Emirates, through Saudi Arabia, Jordan, then Israel, and onto Europe, right? Because Israel is stealing, or wanted to steal, Lebanon's gas until Hezbollah told them to back the hell off. And then they settled it with the American envoy. So, you know, but by that time, Ursula von der Leyen from the EU, she was calling Israel a gas partner. Remember? Because Russia's been cut off, so now the EU needs to find gas, so they look to Israel. So Israel wants this corridor not only for gas, but also for goods to flow through Haifa port, which the Chinese, by the way, have invested in heavily, but that's another matter. So they want to be a hub, right? And make no mistake, Egypt is going to lose out, by the way, with all of this, because the new Silk Road, the maritime path, goes through the Suez Canal. Of course, everything goes through the Suez Canal, everything that matters, right? He acts like, oh, Israel is good with Egypt and so on. Actually, no one in Egypt likes Israel. Literally nobody, except the people at the top who, are too coward to annul the agreement and so on. But make no mistake that right now things in Egypt are getting hot. So in any case, why am I playing you this clip? Listen to how people clap at the end, okay?
To show a great blessing, the blessing of a new Middle East between Israel, Saudi Arabia, and our other neighbors. We will not only bring down barriers between Israel and our neighbors, we'll build a new corridor of peace and prosperity that connects Asia through the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, to Europe. This is an extraordinary change, a monumental change, another pivot of history.
There's literally no one in the room. Look when he's speaking. There's no one in the room.
Can best appreciate the blessing of peace. Now there are many hurdles on the path to peace.
The Israeli delegation, they're like trying to clap the crap out of their own hands, just so you hear it on the mic.
But I'm committed to doing everything
God, what a sad sight. Oh my goodness.
To forge a better future for Israel and all of our peoples, all the peoples in our region. 2 days ago.
God, it's almost as bad as what I'm about to show you next, although not as bad, because this one really takes the cake. So Zelensky was giving a speech at the UN, right? Where he said that Russia should be removed from the Security Council. Boy, go and sit down. Go and sit down, boy. You errand boy. Sit down. Okay? Russia should be removed. Russia's a founding member of the UN, you clown. In any case, back then, of course, we're talking about the Soviet Union, which included Ukraine, but now everything Soviet is only Russian and has to be defaced. They're basically destroying their own history. In any case, on Ukrainian TV, they played Zelensky's speech, and then to make it look like there were lots of people watching his speech, to make it appear that the General Assembly was packed, right? Because they're fawning over Zelensky. They edited the footage. And by accident, they left in a part where Zelensky was in the crowd, in his seat, right, where the Ukrainian delegation is. So apparently Zelensky was watching himself speak at the UN General Assembly. Oh my God. Look, watch 14 seconds what happens.
Не розгортати цю зброю, не розповсюджувати, не допускати погрози нею, не допускати тренування для того, щоб забезпечити ядерне роззброєння. І це хороша стратегія. Але вона не повинна...
Look, it's him! Zelensky is watching his own speech. Oh, dear mother of God, what have you done? How could you screw this up so royally? Why are you so desperate? You don't have to show the crowd. You could just show Zelensky, right? Just show Zelensky. You don't have to humiliate yourself like this. Oh my God, how you have been found out. Oh my goodness.
Хороша стратегія. Але вона не повинна бути єдиною стратегією для того, щоб убезпечити світ від війни, від останньої війни. Україна віддала третій за потужністю ядерний арсенал. Не розгортати...
Zelensky, stop it. Stop. Stop. Oh my God. He really actually needs to fire everyone who works there. This is game over. Especially after he banned all the other TV networks and media, right? So there's only like one channel left in Ukraine. The thought police. Oh my goodness. They've really screwed this up for you, my dear boy, haven't they? Oh no. Why did they have to pick this? Like the UN General Assembly takes place over several days. You have hundreds of countries that 196 that are UN members. So we're talking about over 100 leaders that come to speak. This takes days for everyone to speak. It started like 4 days ago, and Netanyahu only spoke today. Right? We were only waiting for Netanyahu. But just to give an example, right? They could have just waited and cut something from any of these goddamn speeches that does not show the Ukrainian delegation. No, let's put it in. Yallah. Oh my God. This is just scandalous. An absolute scandal within a scandal. Also, when Netanyahu was speaking outside at the UN, outside the building in New York, they had a truck going to protest against Netanyahu. Take a look. It's Pinocchio. Defend Israel's democracy. And then when I saw that, I realized, it's actually just Israelis who want like a less. They just want to keep living on Palestinian land and to keep killing Palestinians, but with someone else who's not called Netanyahu in charge. Well, great. That is really so democratic, They have a democracy. They certainly do for themselves, right? The white European Jews who run Israel. Every single Israeli prime minister, they come from Eastern Europe. They themselves were either born there or their parents or the grandparents. So they're obviously not from there. Palestinians, even those with citizenship, they're treated like 50th class citizens, 60th, 70th class citizens, and of course the majority of the population who are Palestinian, obviously in Palestine, are treated like non-citizens, like scum, like less than human, because Israel is apartheid. Israel is a colony. It's a European colony, and so it behaves like a colony. Here's the Palestinian president Abbas, when he was speaking, the Israelis walked out, right?
أكثر من 600 جثمان محجوزة عندهم لماذا لا أدري على مسمع ومرأى العالم ودون أي رادع أو عقاب أو مساءلة لا بل
Maybe one of them was holding up another Mahsa Amini sign and they got escorted out. Oh no, it's funny that they walk out because you know damn well that as soon as the speech is over, they're just going to watch it on replay because they have to, right? The Israelis, they're in order to run the occupation, they have to spy on everyone and watch what everyone is saying and etc. So they'll of course be listening to it so they can react. God, so corny, just so corny, really. Let me play you something that's actually good. This is Lula, president of Brazil. Look at what he had to say at the UN General Assembly.
It is essential to preserve press freedom. Journalists like Julian Assange cannot be punished for informing society in a transparent and legitimate way. Our fight is against disinformation and cybercrime. Apps and platforms should not abolish the labor laws we fight so hard for. When we become president of the G20 next December, we will spare no effort to place the fight against inequalities and all forms of immersion at the center of the international agenda. It is essential to preserve press freedom.
So there's also the not only it's not just him, it's not just Lula who mentioned Assange, but also here I'm getting you the next clip. If I recall correctly, the president of Bolivia also mentioned Assange, but it's very good of Lula. I'll show you another speech here. This is from the Serbian president. Look at what he had to say.
что стало беспрецедентным в истории мира. Самые могущественные 19 стран приняли решение без задействования Совета Безопасности ООН. Повторюсь, без какого-либо решения со стороны Совета Безопасности ООН жестоко напасть и наказать суверенную страну в Европе, как они сказали, чтобы предотвратить гуманитарную катастрофу. Они, тем не менее, возмущаются, когда президент России употребил те же самые фразы, оправдывая его нападение на Украину. Они забыли, что они сами тогда же использовали те же самые слова. Хотел бы проинформировать, что Сербия, тем не менее, ни на сантиметр не зашла на территорию другой страны, не угрожала существованию любой другой страны. Но 24 года назад самые могущественные 19 стран не пожалели Сербию. Даже когда они сказали, что они работу свою завершили, они отметили, что вопрос Косово – это вопрос демократии, что и он должен быть решен в соответствии с положениями Устава ООН и других международно-правовых документах, но вопреки этому, вопреки всем документам международного права, им пришло в голову в 2008 году поддержать независимость так называемого Косово. Данное незаконное решение об отделении автономной провинции Косово и Метохи от Сербии было принято спустя 10 лет после окончания.
Ouch. They don't like the truth, do they? He just dropped a truth bomb on them. They don't like the truth, right? So it's not okay for Russia to respond to a valid, legitimate, real military threat on its borders. It's not okay for Russia to respond to NATO enlargement, NATO encirclement. But, you know, it's okay to destroy Iraq and destroy Syria and Libya and Afghanistan and Pakistan and you know, Yemen and Serbia and Yugoslavia, of course. That's totally fine. And then, of course, you know, it's not okay for the Russians that have been targeted, the ethnic Russians that have been killed, that have been massacred, that have been tortured, that have been turned into pariahs in their own country, right? Apparently, because it's Ukraine. It's not okay for them to have their own countries and to be protected by Russia. No, their votes are illegitimate. Their elections are illegitimate. You know, their independence is illegitimate. But then on the flip side, when it comes to Kosovo, that is legitimate, of course. Why? Because NATO is backing it. NATO is allowed to bomb whatever country it likes, even when it has literally no connection or relation whatsoever to anything in the North Atlantic, meaning Libya, for example, or Syria. And then it's okay for NATO to carve out countries when they like, even 100 years ago, before there was anything like NATO. It's the same powers at play, right? You got the France and Britain carving up countries in Africa and carving up countries in Asia, you know, Pakistan and India, Syria carved up into Lebanon and Israel, and, you know, of course, Palestine is erased. And this is all okay. It's all fine, you know. Screw the UN Charter. Screw international law. We do what we like whenever we please. But, you know, if you do what we do, we will get mad. Then we will really turn up the heat on you. Just scandalous. Honestly, scandalous. I'm really glad that he brought this up and he mentioned this, because it's good for them to have the truth, you know, in their face. They sometimes, actually not sometimes, always, they need to have the truth put in their goddamn faces. Serbia, Yugoslavia hasn't even recovered from what they've done to it. Iraq, Libya, same for all these countries that have been victims of NATO, haven't even recovered. Even, as I said, before there was anything such as NATO, when they were still colonial, they were coming as colonizers and carving the countries up and making new borders. They still haven't recovered from that. Haven't recovered. So last but not least, I have a small clip to play you. And this is from the... Okay, I mean, first of all, I'm not going to play you his speech at the UNGA. This is the Polish president, right? I'm talking about. I'm not going to play you what he said at the UN General Assembly, because it was so goddamn horrendous and boring. He was basically just, you know, getting on his knees and you know, barking barking UN propaganda, US propaganda at everybody at the UN, right? So just horrible, so horrendous and boring. It's so boring. It's like watching somebody read out, you know, a text with no intonation, nothing. Just no. Horrendous. I wanted to kill myself. Listen, this is afterwards. So the same Polish president. Look what he said about Ukraine.
Ja bym to porównał tak. Mamy trochę do czynienia tak z tonącym. My jesteśmy tym, który ratuje. Jak jest tonący, każdy, kto kiedykolwiek brał udział w ratowaniu tonącego, czy każdy, kto kiedykolwiek uczył się o tym, co dzieje się w tej sytuacji, wie o tym, że człowiek tonący jest niesłychanie niebezpieczny, ponieważ może pociągnąć w głębiny. Ma siłę niewyobrażalną na skutek obawy osobistej, wpływu adrenaliny i może po prostu utopić ratującego. Chwyta się wszystkiego, mówi się przecież w przysłowiu, tonący brzytwy się chwyta. Rzeczywiście tonący chwyta się wszystkiego, czego się da. Trochę to jest taka sytuacja jak dzisiaj między Polską a Ukrainą. Ukraina jest pod napaścią rosyjską, bez wątpienia jest w bardzo trudnej sytuacji. Chwyta się wszystkiego, czego się da. Czy można mieć o to do niej pretensje? No, oczywiście można mieć pretensje. Ja bym to porównał tak. Mamy trochę do czynienia tak z tonącym. My jesteśmy tym, który ratuje. Jak jest tonący, każdy, kto kiedykolwiek brał udział w ratowaniu tonącego, czy każdy, kto kiedykolwiek uczył się o tym, co dzieje się w tej sytuacji, wie o tym, że człowiek tonący jest niesłychanie niebezpieczny, ponieważ może pociągnąć w głębiny. Ma siłę niewyobrażalną na skutek obawy osobistej, wpływu adrenaliny i może po prostu utopić ratującego. Chwyta się wszystkiego, mówi się przecież w przysłowiu, tonący brzytwy się chwyta. Rzeczywiście tonący chwyta się wszystkiego, czego się da. Trochę to jest taka sytuacja jak dzisiaj między Polską a Ukrainą. Ukraina jest pod napaścią rosyjską, bez wątpienia jest w bardzo trudnej sytuacji. Chwyta się wszystkiego, czego się da. Czy można mieć o to do niej...
So I'm playing this to you in relation to grain, of course, because you're seeing Poland and a handful of European countries, slowly starting to wake up, and they're still giving Ukraine weapons. They're giving their old stock, the stuff they don't want anymore. That's been true since the beginning. But at the same time, they've the countries, for example, like Germany, tried to give Ukraine some of their old stuff, but also, of course, Leopard tanks, right? So the stuff that they also employ in their arsenals. When it comes to Poland, why is he speaking like this about Ukraine, comparing Ukraine to a drowning man? He's saying this because, for example, Ukraine, regarding its wheat and grain exports, they flooded the EU. They flooded especially the neighboring countries like Poland with their grain, and the EU subsidized, helped them out with this. And what happened is that basically the price dropped like unimaginably because they flooded the market, and this screwed over Polish farmers. This screwed over farmers that are in neighboring countries, to Ukraine. So basically, this is one of the avenues, one of the areas where they just said, screw this. We are not allowing any grain, any wheat, nothing that comes from Ukraine into our country. We're banning it straight up, right? And now they're having this fight again about this, especially after the grain deal is gone, right? So the avenue that Ukraine had to export grain, through the Black Sea is gone because, of course, they weren't abiding by the deal. It's the same thing with as the nuclear deal. You have an agreement, and the Russians fulfill their end of the deal to the letter. The Iranians fulfill their end of the deal to the letter. Yet the other side just says screw you, and they do whatever they want. And then when the agreement fails because of them, because of the West, they start screaming, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and they just lie in the media. They just lie and lie through their goddamn teeth. And so, one of the things that Ukraine has been trying to do by offsetting this grain going through Poland, they just won't have it. And it's funny watching them speak like now, because they don't hesitate, right? They don't hesitate. But I think a lot of these European leaders, like the Polish president, who were totally on board with the sanctions, who supported arming Ukraine, who supported Germany rearming as well, and allowing Germany to export weapons and make basically have a larger footprint in world conflicts, as opposed to making sure Germany is neutered. Germany cannot ever possibly have the capacity to do again what it did 2 times. These countries, these politicians who allowed this to happen will be gone. They will be gone in a year or 2 years tops, because people are not going to accept, what the BBC like to call a cost of living crisis. It's not a cost of living crisis. It's a we sanctioned Russia and shot ourselves in the foot crisis. But by the way, you have to pay for it, right? The politicians who approve this stuff, they don't pay for this. The taxpayer foot their bill, right? So if an MP, for example, in Westminster, you know, they're on board with sanctions or so on, and the price of electricity and gas goes up, guess what? They get to claim that as expenses, right? So meaning it's paid by the taxpayer. They don't ever feel the effects of what it means to go into the grocery store, to go to buy food, and then cooking oil or bread or whatever it is twice the price, you know, 2 times higher. They don't have to feel these effects. They're not affected by that. But guess what? Most people are, and they're not going to tolerate this. He would do well. He would do well to understand that, because this is not just about grain and so on. You know, this is really Ukraine putting everyone at risk, and especially the United States and Britain using Ukraine to put everyone at risk. You know, this is really, really not a joke, because the Russians have said multiple times, we have this red line, that red line, and we keep crossing it and telling them, you know, it's okay, you know, we're going to defy you, and maybe one day we'll find out whether, you know, we crossed the line and there's a nuclear war. Who wants to sit around and find out whether, you know, this thing or that thing is really the red line for the Russians? I don't think this is a sane strategy. If you're sane, you don't do that. You don't keep provoking the Russians until you find out whether they're going to use a nuclear weapon or not because of what you did. This is madness. You don't play these games, right? You know, this is Russian roulette on another level, like literally on another level. Okay, madness roulette. Goddamn madness. Again, I'm just going to play this clip with the Israeli being thrown out because it's so funny. It made my day. He's so pompous. He thinks he's so hot with that stupid piece of paper. Free Iranian women. You free Iranian women. Why don't you get the hell out of the Middle East and destroying Iran with sanctions and you know, using Saudi Arabia and America to destroy Iran? Go away. You care about Iranian women? You know what? They not arrested him, but detained him because he doesn't behave like a diplomat. So they don't think he's a diplomat, because this guy's supposed to be an ambassador, right? He's there as a representative of Israel, right? Of the chosen people. And he behaves like a teenager. He behaves like a clown. And for what? For what? Just to hold up a piece of propaganda? You think the Israelis give a rat's ass about Mahsa Amini or anyone else? First of all, like I said, there's no proof that she even she was killed by anyone. There's literally no proof. There is no proof. The only evidence we have, the CCTV footage, the coroner's report, the medical examiner, nothing at all suggests that this is true. It's only because they want to make you believe that it's true, so you accept the consequences, or rather the following acts that they will commit against Iran, right? So that you are conditioned to accept sanctions, even though it kills people, even though it hurts people, that you accept them waging, a war through social media, that you accept the violence that people committed against the police, right? Remember, many Iranian security forces were killed, like lynched in the street. Same thing in Syria, by the way, when they tried to start, they did when they started that war, which again, surprise, Israel is behind that too. A lot of security forces were just murdered, right? And it turns out what they say, Iran did this and Syria did that. For number one, it's not true, and number two, it's none of your business. So don't think of this as anything except a ridiculous propaganda PR stunt. And it's so funny watching it backfire in real time. It's just, the Israelis think they're above everyone, and they're not. They're really not.